Okay, here's hoping this goes a little smoother than the last one. We got secants, tangents, and angle measures, and so hopefully you watched the video and you got at least the gist of what those relationships are. With that, we can jump right in. So we're told that CQD is 120. We are told that BC is 30. BEC is 25. A little small there, but we'll make it work. And then we want to find each measure. So first up, it asks for DC. Central angle equals the intercepted arc, so that is 120 degrees. AD, we have an outside angle. So an outside angle says 1/2 of big minus small, AD minus 30, must be equal to the outside angle of 25 degrees. So then that means that you're going to have 50 is equal to AD minus 30, which means AD must be 80 degrees. So we got 80 degrees right there. Number 3, we're asked for AB. Having not written the numbers on the circle, for a moment I was very confused, but guess what? If we know 3 parts out of 4, we just have to add them up and subtract from 360. So the 80 and the 120 make 200, plus the 30 make 230. So to find the remaining for AB, we simply need 360 minus the 230 we had up above, which is going to give us a remaining measure of 130 degrees. And then finally QDC. QDC, we saw this on a previous activity. I have 2 radii, which means they are congruent, which means opposite angles must also be congruent because the triangle is isosceles. So 120 means that 180 minus 120 means there are 60 degrees left, but lo and behold, split it amongst 2 means each angle is 30 degrees. And that is that first part. Let's jump down to number 2, or the second part, second section. And let's see what we got. AE is 140 degrees, BD is Y, AB is 2Y, and DE is also 2Y. Well, same as before, I know that all 4 of those parts must add up to 360. My apologies. So, I've got 5Y, and then 360 take away the 140, means I've got 220 left. So Y must be equal to 44 degrees. I'm just mentally double checking before I do this whole thing wrong. 44, 88, 88. The 88's 90, 188, 220, 360. Okay, moving right along. 5 is BD, which is just Y, and we found it, 44 degrees. Yay. 6 says AB. AB is 2 times that. 2 times 44 is 88. DE, same thing, 88 degrees. And then finally BCD, angle is outside. Angle outside is 1/2 the big intercepted arc, 140, minus the small intercepted arc of 44, which is going to be 1/2 of 96 degrees, which is going to give us a final answer of 48 degrees. And then we end up with the mess that is the third section. So I'm actually going to zoom in on the picture for a second, just to make sure that we get everything in the right spot and see what fits where. So zooming in on that a little bit, let's see what we got here. So BC is 4x minus 50. DE is x plus 25. EF is x minus 15. CD is x and FB is 50. So they were nice and they gave us all the values. I'm going to kind of add everything up together at once. I've got x, 2, 3, a total of 7 x's. I've got minus 15 plus 25 is a plus 10. Plus 10 and 50 is 60. 60 minus 50 is plus 10. I'm going to double check that. Those cancel. 15 and 25 is a plus 10. That must be 360. And that actually works out really nice because then you subtract your 10 and you get 7x is equal to 350, which means x must be equal to 50, which is a pretty nice number. So with that, before we even fully jump in, let's just find each of these values plugging in 50. So this one's going to be 50, just plug it in. This is going to be 200, take away 50, that's 150. This is going to be 50 plus 25, that's 75. And it's going to be 50, take away 15, that is 35. So now that we've got all the angles for those intercepted arcs, let's jump out to the actual problems. So first up, part A, angle outside the arc, big minus small. So I've got 1/2 of 150 minus 50. That's 1/2 of 100. Excuse me. 50 degrees. Number 10, BCA is an inscribed angle. The vertex is on the circle, which means it's half its intercepted arc. Half of 50 is 25 degrees. ABC, ooh, this is a fun one, also an inscribed angle. Now, to find its intercepted arc, I could add up all of these numbers, or just recognize that it's 360 take away 150. So I'm going to do 360 take away 150, that's 210. So I need 1/2 of 210, which is 105 degrees. You could also say if this is 150, then that means that this angle right here is half of that because it's inscribed, which makes it 75. And these two angles must add up to 180 because they form a straight line. Hence, 105 is the remaining piece. All of these problems have more than one set of steps you could take. GBC, guess what, we just did it, 1/2 of 150 or the supplementary value of 105. Either way, we get 75 degrees. FHE, now we've got an angle inside the circle. If you are inside the circle and you are not central, you are now 1/2 the sum of the intercepted arcs. So in this case, we're going to have 1/2 of 35 plus 50. Adding those together, I've got 1/2 of 85. 1/2 of 85 is 42.5 degrees. And then finally, CFD is an inscribed angle to the 50. 1/2 of 50 is 25 degrees. Let's jump down to this last one and see what we can do. Hopefully it doesn't stump me like the other ones. Angle A is 62 degrees. That's nice enough. BD, the arc, is 120. I see where this is going. Find each angle measure. Okay. So let's see what they want us to do. They want us to find C first. Okay, we can do that. If this is 120, that means the remaining amount is 240. So angle C is 1/2 the big arc, 240, minus the small arc, 120. So that's going to be 1/2 of 120, or 60 degrees. And I'm going to add that in. Angle C is 60 degrees. It then asks us to find DF, which is an interesting order to that. DF. Well, when you're stuck on one part, let's just see what we can find. I know 62, I know 60. That means that angle E, if they're going to add to 180, must be 58. If angle E adds to 58, we want to find DF. I'm going to call it X. So that means 58 must be equal to 1/2 the big arc. What is the big arc? The big arc is 360 minus X. This chunk right here, DBF, must be the rest of the circle. That is your big arc. And I need to subtract, because that's what my rule says. My rule says to subtract the small arc, which we've named as just being X. I'm going to multiply my two, or I'm going to leave that for a second. So I've got 58 is equal to 1/2 360 minus 2x. Distribute the 1/2. I get 58 is equal to 180 minus x. I'm going to add x and subtract 58. So I get x is equal to 180 minus 58 is going to be 122 degrees. So I now know what DF is. It is 122. Interestingly enough, I found angle E before I found DF. Oh wells, 58 degrees.